I wanted to get to know them, and I want you out there to get to know them. And one of the people that I really want you to get to know is Chief Touchberry. Am I supposed to call you Chief? I want to call you Keith in the worst way, but
call me Keith, Mark. That's
because I have you on my phone as Keith Touchberry. But I know you're a chief, and I need to respect your position.
Thank you.
We're honored to have you on the show, and let me tell you why you're here. Besides the fact that you're a friend of a friend, I love our mutual friend. You are running a race up against what is arguably one of the most groomed people ever to come into a race for sheriff. The other guy, we won't mention him because I know that's a brouhaha amongst political opponents. He's been endorsed by the sheriff, and he's been following the sheriff around for the last, 6 or 7 years. But when I sat with you, I thought, this guy's going to be hard to beat. Because he's got all these credentials and all these people behind him. And then I talked to you and I thought, wow, you have years of experience. You have come up through the ranks, and this is my most impressive part about you, in my opinion. You literally have worked pretty much every job. Tell the people a little bit about your career background.
Sure. Thank you, Mark, and thank you for having me on the show. And good morning, Devin. It's good to see you as always. And
you too.
So my career began in law enforcement anyway in 1989 when I was hired by the Vero Beach Police Department, and I did work my way up through the ranks. I was hired as a patrol officer and at one point was selected to be a K-9 handler, and I did that for 7 years, but I also got promoted along the way as a dog handler, and I served on our SWAT team at the same time. So, smaller organizations, you wear multiple hats like that. And so for about the first 7 or so years of my career, spent most of that time in uniform, working my way up through the ranks, made the rank of sergeant while still handling a police dog. And we went everywhere, Rocky and I. We had a great time together. And then I moved into the detective division, where I spent 3 years supervising criminal investigations and learning a lot about those things. And then ultimately was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. Went back out into patrol, and now you're supervising the sergeant who's supervising those people out there answering, the calls for service, to include the K-9 handlers and detectives and so forth. And after a bit of time there, moved into our Administrative Services Bureau, where I was immediately put in charge of accreditation, and I'm the first accreditation manager to get the Vero Beach Police Department accredited. Of course, that was done with the assistance of many other talented people, so it's always a team effort, everything we do. And so I spent multiple years as a lieutenant supervising a lot of different important functions within the Vero Beach Police Department, to include our dispatch communications center. And I got to say, they are special people, very talented, very dedicated, and I'm very comfortable around our dispatchers because I know how they think and I know how hard they work. And so after a time there as a lieutenant, I was promoted to the rank of captain and then put back out in charge of patrol. And now you're overseeing all those functions that I performed.
And not for nothing, I own my own little business, and we do all right for ourselves. And if there's one thing I know that, for instance, I work behind the chair still. And one of the reasons that I insist I continue to work behind the chair, I don't have to at this point, is because it really encourages, it helps the morale of my staff.
It does.
They know that I have walked the walk. They know that I have been in the trenches.
Sure.
I started like them. I'm no different than them.
Absolutely.
And I need them to believe that and to watch me make mistakes and watch me have successes and watch me, do my. And so when I look at you, I think immediately just from I mean, let's face it, that's one of the biggest jobs in the county. I mean, your budget is one of the biggest budgets in the county.
Yes.
When you're a sheriff. I mean, you have a huge staff.
It's the biggest.
For them to know that their leader has started from
ground zero.
Ground zero.
Absolutely.
You were a grunt. I don't know what that is in police terms, but you were.
Yes, I was.
You were the startup.
Well, Mark, I'm a grunt at heart. I mean, you can never forget where you came from, and you've got to set the example and lead from the front. And when you get there behind that chair like you're doing, and you're setting the example, you're illustrating to the people who follow you, who work for you, that you are not above them, that you are very much like them, and then you've got to share in their hardships always. And I don't care if it means getting out once in a while when it's in the pouring rain and directing traffic. I put my pants on one leg at a time, And I don't care if I'm the sheriff, you're going to see me out there.
Absolutely. You know, if you go onto our social media page for March at the Point Salon and Boutique, you'll actually see pictures of me scrubbing toilets. And it's because I really...
Well, I'm not excited about that, Mark.
No, but I honestly
I've done that too. But
that's it, though. But that's it. You know, when I ask one of my staff, you know, hey, this needs to be done.
Sure.
They know that I've done it. They know that I do it.
Yep.
I mean,
you never ask anyone to do something you wouldn't do yourself.
That is correct,
period.
sir. That is correct.
And
so
you have to know that you show them that you have done it.
So, Devin, give us 30 seconds. We got 1 minute on the clock. Why are you involved with Touchberry?
Oh, well, to be honest, I haven't even known him as long as I have known some of the other candidates, but what I do know about him tells me that he is going to be the right man to lead our county. It's mainly about his philosophy of law enforcement leadership. It's not about dictatorship with him. It is about partnership and a whole community coming together. And he'll tell you more about that this morning, but that's why I'm behind him.
Thank you, Devin.
All right. And we are about 20 seconds on the clock. So when we come back, we are here with Chief Touchberry running for Indian River County Sheriff. And we're going to learn more about the philosophy behind the man and the leadership. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to give a voice to those that may not get a fair shake. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in studio today. We are with Sheriff. I'm calling you Sheriff already. Chief Touchberry.
I like it.
Keith Touchberry. He's running for sheriff. And, you know, again, as you all know, all you got to do is pick up a newspaper. He's running up against a few guys. And, you know, one in particular I call the Golden Boy. He's been groomed for this. But when I met Chief Touchberry, I was impressed once again by the fact that he has physically been in the trenches and worked his way up the ranks from a grunt all the way to chief of police there in Fellsmere. And again, don't play my theme song too loud because he will pull you over. But Chief Touchberry, you know, one of the things Devin has, you know, mentioned in the last segment was that your philosophy, how did you put it, Devin? You used beautiful words.
Oh, gosh, you want me to repeat it?
Well,
it's
I don't want to misquote you.
It's Chief Touchberry's philosophy of leadership.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe it's a dictatorship. It's a partnership with the community.
Absolutely.
And again, I find this important for morale. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when you have the cops out there doing the job they do, and it's oftentimes a thankless job, I want morale high. I want to know that when their leader asks them to do something difficult, that they believe in their heart of hearts that not only has he been there, but he's making the right call, and they can get behind him because we're counting on these folks. So talk to us. I want to call you Sheriff. Chief Touchberry. Talk to us a little bit about this philosophy.
Absolutely. Well, I think that I went to the greatest school of leadership in the world, and that's the United States Marine Corps. And I was in the infantry, and you learn a lot about service and sacrifice. And you learn first and foremost that if it were not for those to be led, there simply could be no leaders. So you have to understand that your people are your greatest asset. And if you elevate them, they will elevate themselves. So you also understand that leadership means sacrifice. What are you willing to give up to move up? And that's what I've done my entire career, you know, at the sacrifice maybe of some relationships, but, you know, along the way. But it's really about setting the example and leading from the front.
No, sure.
And I would also like to say that, you know, from that the time in the Marine Corps, you learn about how to look at the leadership around you and other organizations and other units, if you will. And there's 4 indicators that can tell you whether or not that leadership is effective. And they're very simple: morale, proficiency, discipline, and esprit de corps. You know, the overall love for who you are and what you do and what you stand for. And if those 4 things are low, morale, proficiency, discipline, esprit de corps, if they are low, then you know very, very well that the leadership is ineffective. And if you have ineffective leadership, then ultimately what you're going to have is a dysfunctional organizational culture. And within that culture, people aren't as motivated to be there. And ultimately, if they see that decisions that are made are not fair, impartial, or consistent, you know, for their own livelihood, like promotions, lateral transfers, and school opportunities, if they're not made available in a fair, impartial, and consistent manner, then you begin to lose hope. And once you lose hope in an organization, it's only a matter of time before you're gone, or if you can't leave for some other reasons, then you cease to be effective yourself, and you start looking for more tangible things to make you happy. And that's when you start going to the tables to bargain for more money and more benefits and so on and so forth. And I feel if you lead effectively, then you're not going to have such a hard time with those tangible aspects because you're providing those intangibles that those people need.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and not for nothing, folks. Again, bear in mind who I am. I'm Mark, the hair guy. You know, what the heck's he doing on a radio show interviewing the guy looking for sheriff? Yeah, you know. When I work behind the chair, I get a real cross section of our community. I'm talking gals of all walks of life, all socioeconomic backgrounds, and many of them are police officers. Many of them are in the sheriff's department. Many of them are wives of the sheriffs. And let me tell you, morale is a big issue for me.
It is.
I have heard a lot of, I don't want to call it infighting, but I've heard a lot of... What am I looking for? Somebody give me a word.
Tension.
Tension. Yes, great word. I'm hearing a lot of tension from within. And in some ways, and no offense, I know Sheriff Laura very well, there's almost a sense of a disconnect, as if they can't communicate with him directly, as if they don't have his ear. They don't seem to believe that they are being heard. And I don't know what that's all about. I don't work at the sheriff's office, but let's talk about first 100 days type of stuff.
Sure.
You know, what do you envision? You walk in, let's say you're there, you get this job. What's the first 100 days look like for you?
Well, having spent the first 100 days taking over an organization where someone from the outside needed to come in as a change agent and right that ship and put it back on course, I can tell you that the things that you're going to do, looking at it from the outside, tend to be what you think you're going to do anyway, are not necessarily what you're going to have to do, simply because you're not in there at that time. The goals and objectives I set for myself when I took over at the Felsmer Police Department, I had to put a few of those on the side because I knew we had to focus on this. So with the Sheriff's Office, I think the first most important thing we have to do is we have to listen to the people, and we have to understand what are their issues and their concerns.
The people being the
members of that
employed.
organization, absolutely, because like I said, they're our greatest asset, and they're the ones who are doing the work. And so,
Well, and they're our eyes and ears
they
on
are.
the ground.
Absolutely.
I
And
mean, they know my business. The guy that patrols our area knows my
Sure.
business and what goes on around me better
Absolutely.
than anybody else.
And let's face it, Mark, the higher up you go in the ladder of an organization, the fewer the decisions that you make, but the more powerful and far-reaching those decisions are. You've got to push those other decisions downward as much as possible because, you know, the people who are closest to the work and doing the job know how to do it best because they're living it every day. Secondly, it also gives you an opportunity as a leader to develop those people, to give them some input and buy-in and ownership to the ultimate solution that you arrive at together. And that's what being a team is all about. So, but we are going to have to address the deficit in employees. The sheriff's office is minus a lot of people, and they've had a lot of people leave.
Really?
And I can tell you it's not so much because of the salary and benefits, because, their salary could use some adjusting without question, and I know that union is in negotiation with those things. They're currently at impasse, but they are competitive and reasonably competitive for the local area, and I mean this county. That's not to say that they're not competitive with counties south of here, but they pay more than counties north of here, and that's just the way the economics are in the state of Florida. It's very difficult to compete with Martin County,
Sure.
and point south. From a tangible aspect, meaning salary, benefits, and promotional opportunities, but where you can run circles around other organizations is through those intangibles, those things that come from quality leadership, those things that people truly want in life. Like they want to feel good about where they work. They want to trust the people that they work with, and they want a good, healthy environment where they know they have opportunity where they can succeed. And I submit that those intangible things that do not exist at the Indian River County Sheriff's Office are the job one things that you're talking about those first 100 days. We've got to get folks to understand that those intangibles will come back under my leadership. They will have a say in what's going on over there. They will feel as if they have valued, and we will be successful as an organization as a result.
No. Yes, Doopy.
You know, like I said, I've known you for a while now, and sometimes it still just, blows me away, the things that come out of your mouth, the insight that you have into what needs to be done to move us forward.
Thank you.
It still makes me stop and go, wow, sometimes.
Well, that just comes from being a lifelong leader, and that's who I am. I mean, when I enlisted in the Army Reserve at age 17, while still in high school, I went to boot camp during the summer between my junior and senior year, and I've held leadership positions in every single organization I've ever been in, and that's because leading is not just what I do. Being a leader is who I am.
And again, more importantly to me, and once again in radio, we're up against the clock here. But, parting words for the next break, and then we'll be back with Chief Touchberry, who's looking to become sheriff. One of the things that impresses me about you, sir, because I'm a pretty good read on mankind, you are still a man with passion for his job.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes people ask me why I'm doing hair. They know I've done other things in my lifetime, and I've made more money in my lifetime. But you know what? I love what I do.
Sure.
And when you have a passion for what you do, you make a difference. So am I convinced that you're a perfect guy? No. Am I convinced that you're a man that has passion to lead this organization?
No.
Absolutely right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the air today with Keith Touchberry. He is Chief of Police in Fellsmere, and he wants to be your sheriff. Now, because we're on radio and because we often run out of time, I want to give him the mic right now and let him just make your statement, if you will. I call it the elevator statement. Devin Dupe here, she's my co-host, and some of you may remember she once ran for office, and I'm sure they told you to have an elevator speech, right?
Oh, absolutely. And my mom's a business professor, so I knew what an elevator speech was when I was 4.
And again, I just want to make this clear, even though I'm asking him to, spout out at the mic. The reason I have Keith Touchberry on my show is because when I met him and when I heard his story, I was so impressed by the fact that he has his hands dirty, and I like that. He has worked his way up. Some people don't know, from Vero Beach Police Department. He started in the Marines. He was a Vero Beach police person. He started ground level, worked his way up. He's been in leadership ever since, and the man knows the job. He knows what it's like to be that officer on the force, on the ground, boots on the ground, and seeing all the action. So when a leader speaks to you, you got to know that he's not asking you to do anything he hasn't done himself, and I believe that with this man. So anyway, let me give you the mic, Keith, Chief Touchberry, and go for it, man. Talk to us a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, this race is about qualifications, and, the qualifications that I want the community to know that I possess is first and foremost experience. And 30 years of that right here in Indian River County, this county, on nearly 25 years with the Vero Beach Police Department, as you know, and I'm in my 6th year as the police chief in the city of Fellsmere. So I'm already the top cop in a community in this county. And so being a top cop means that I don't need any on-the-job training in a lot of ways. I'm already doing the job. And so I know how it has to be done from a chief executive officer standpoint. So working my way up through the ranks, spending time in each level, not jumping over levels, not skipping ranks is very important. And there's no greater learning than experiential learning. That's what you have to do as a leader and as a person within an organization. The next qualification I want to talk about is I'm very innovative. The innovation that we've had to employ in the city of Fellsmere has been vast because we are the smallest, most resource-challenged community in this county. Subsequently, I lead the smallest, most resource-challenged police department in this county. So you have to learn how to do more with less. And when our ultimate goal is to reduce crime and improve our quality of life, we have got to work together and be innovative in the manner that we do that. Several years ago, I co-founded the nonprofit organization, the Fellsmere Action Community Team. And as a result of that, we implemented a policing philosophy called partner institution policing. That means we partner with those institutions in our society that are most important to us in the growing and molding and shaping of people, first and foremost being family, also churches, schools, youth organizations, nonprofits, and finally government. That's what FACT is. It's comprised of people who represent those institutions. And I must tell you guys, I am the only candidate, to my knowledge, and I ask anyone to step up, but I'm the only candidate who has co-founded a nonprofit organization for the purpose of facilitating a policing philosophy. And that's important to me. It's also important to the Florida Police Chiefs Association, which is the 3rd largest state chiefs association in the country. They thought that philosophy was pretty cool, and in 2014, they bestowed upon us the Rocky Pomerantz Excellence in Policing Award for a small agency in a community policing innovative development. We've won that award twice, Mark, as a small organization. So we're innovative. We also collaborate. We cannot be innovative unless we collaborate. And the reason we collaborate is because crime is a social problem. It is everyone's responsibility to do something to prevent crime, reduce crime, and improve our quality of life. And so that's what we've done in Felsmer. We've had to collaborate with these organizations to do that. And we've implemented some programs as a result of that collaboration that have helped us reduce crime and improve the quality of life in Felsmer. And the fourth quality that I will highlight is my leadership. You know, I mentioned to you before, from day one, I've held leadership positions as a 17-year-old high school junior, the recruit in charge of my training platoon at Fort Dix, New Jersey during the summer between my junior and senior year. I got to tell you, my football coach was a little upset at me, though, when I came back. Starting defensive end, I had to put on some weight. But same thing for my advanced training in the Army. When I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, student soldier in charge of my training class. And then when I went to the Marine Corps boot camp, squad leader in boot camp, and advanced training at infantry school, Camp Pendleton, California, student Marine in charge of my class. You know, I went to a advanced training school in Okinawa, Japan called Combat Squad Leader School. Again, student or Marine in charge of my class. When I got out of the Marine Corps and went to the police academy, I was the class leader in my police academy. And when the Vero Beach Police Department sent me to the Southern Police Institute at the University of Louisville for a 12-week residential program, it's a finishing school, if you will, much like the FBI National Academy, but those of us who went there feel it's better, and that's just a little rivalry we have. I was elected class president. So like I said, I've held a leadership position in every formal organization I've ever been in. And leadership is key with me. It's about setting the example. It's about charting the course and studying the pace that you have to go to chart that once you chart that course. And you've got to do so by example and never ask anybody to do anything that you've not done yourself or willing to do with them and for them. You know, that's what being a sound leader is. And you've got to share their sacrifices. You have to understand their needs, and you have to do everything you can to value them. But I'd like to say, and I know what our time's like now, but I'd like everyone to know that this is an important race. In 2020, the sheriff's office, like you said, it's the largest organization in any county in the state of Florida.
Big budget.
Yeah, it's got the largest budget. It's got the most people. It's got the greatest responsibility when you talk about, not just traditional police services like the municipal departments in our county provide, but we've also got courtroom security, civil process. We've got the jail, which is a huge thing right now with the budget and so forth. And that's just a short list of the responsibilities that a constitutional officer, as the sheriff, has in the state of Florida. But let's not forget the fact that the sheriff is the most powerful law enforcement officer in the county. This is not a beauty pageant. This is not a popularity contest. This is not about whose turn we think it is.
Amen.
This is not about who's been running the longest or who wants it the most. This is about who is the most qualified leader to be the top cop, the most powerful law enforcement officer in Indian River County. And if people aren't sitting up straight and taking notice, we have an opportunity to chart the course for the future of policing in Indian River County. We've got a lot of big issues that we're facing. We've got, do we arm teachers or not? And how do people feel about that? The school board's weighing in on that right now, and they're having some critical conversations with folks about that. It's about drugs. It's about, the potential for the legalization of marijuana as a recreational drug. How do we feel about that as a community? And what will we do as law enforcement officers should those laws change? And how are we going to meet the needs and protect the citizens of Indian River County in the wake of these very drastic changes? Society's in the middle of a huge paradigm shift when it comes to how we think and feel about what Americans should be allowed to do legally or not. And how we respond to those changes as law enforcement is huge. And you need someone at the helm who's got experience, knowledge, and leadership ability to guide this community through those issues and respond in a fair and equitable manner so that is equal to all of us in this county, regardless of your party affiliation or anything else that makes us all different. Because like you said, we're all very much the same, Mark. And I couldn't agree more when you said that. I really couldn't.
That's the God's honest truth, and Keith, not for nothing, to me, it's also about relationship building. I know you've been involved a lot with the kids, and, I know that you believe, like I do, that education is a key to reducing crime in our country. And I'd like to remind our listeners that, the sheriff works for us, the people. You know, these laws that are changing, these regulations, these rules, these things that are all evolving, we, the people, are voting these things in.
Absolutely.
And they have to deal with it.
They do,
and
Mark.
there's always going to be a segment. Heck, I'm going to go out there and say at least 45% of all people, might not like the outcome of a vote on any particular issue. But it's their job to enforce what has legally become the norm, what we, the people, have said. All right, we've got just a few seconds on the clock. Keith Touchberry, last seconds.
Absolutely. Well, I did want to highlight the fact that I've been adjunct faculty at 2 different colleges, and I teach ethics on the side, and I'm very passionate about that as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Keith Touchberry for sheriff.